the great I've
Was it?
there's one other minister in my life that I've felt comfortable enough to tell them when I thought they were a little off, because my reference point is that almost everyone that tells a pastor when they're off is just being an a-hole.
Yeah.
I just straight up
What was your first name?
I'm James.
I'm John.
Yep,
Did you remember mine?
I wrote yours down. I just haven't had a chance to look at you on YouTube, but yeah.
So
he
what I'm
knows.
actually doing is I'm here correcting a school of preaching right down the road.
Huh?
Do you know the ECS Church of Christ?
I am aware of it.
Yeah. They have a school called Texas School of Preaching, and their vision is basically supposed to be they're replacing some other schools because they won't do X, Y, Z. And they themselves have decided not to do the same X, Y, Z, which is correct the folk that are coming in and changing the direction that they laid out. And
that stuff's hard, so that's the thing you want to not
there's
do.
6 of
But
them.
that's the stuff you get pushback on when it's hard, right?
Yeah.
And so
I'm saying there's 6 of these guys in that school, and I'm willing to meet with every one of them at the same time, and they're ducking. And so, but what
So
you
you're
said,
Church of Christ?
Yeah, I'm a member of the church.
that's-
I'm actually an evangelist in Virginia.
Okay.
And so I've got.
We didn't actually. I figured we were both evangelicals from the way the conversation went, but I didn't actually ask you what your denomination is. Church of Christ is Baptist without a band.
Around here, it may be.
Well, amongst the folks that haven't gotten goofy,
Yeah.
amongst these traditional, the lines that when Church of Christ said, "Hey, we're not Campbellites,"
Yeah.
and when we say, "Hey, we're not Pentecostals and we're not Reformed Church," that's when we're like 90% the same, except for the band thing, and that's not unto salvation.
You are in fact right about the ones around. That's the problem. That is exactly where I am. Is I'm trying to get them to come back to where it used to be, where you would know distinctively that we were not Baptists without a band. That we were actually a whole nother group, more like what used to be called Campbellites. And I'm one of the few that's still left that is under 70. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so maybe the reason why is because I spent most of my time overseas. So the stuff that was changing everybody didn't change me because I was over there. So, but I'm definitely following what you said about when you talk to a pastor. Usually you don't get the response that you want. But with him,
I was like I said, I was pretty comfortable going, either he's got a really good reason why he's diverted from what he was selling from jump, or it's easier. Yeah. And I was like, easier could cost us a year.
Yeah.
And it was like,
easier is not really easier, is it?
It is,
Not necessarily.
well, that's what in the military, when we're clearing buildings and doing urban stuff, that they're like, slow, fast is slow. Slow is fast, and fast is really slow.
Lots of
you have got to be methodical and correct, methodical and correct, methodical and correct. And within the church, even when we're listening to the Holy Spirit, He doesn't always turn us on a dime. He often keeps us doing the hard thing on the road less traveled, and sometimes He turns us on a dime. And that's if the Holy Spirit turns my pastor on a dime, and he says, "Look, this is thing." But the first time he brought a particular idea up, I said, I had that thought that I was out working on the property the other day, and I had the same thought. And he said, "Well, the whole leadership, I'd like y'all to pray about this thing." And I said, the first time I sat down in prayer, so the first time he mentioned the idea, I said, I had the same thought when I was out here. And the second I sat down, because he asked us to just be in prayer about it, because I told you, we got to all agree before we make it. Yeah. The first time I sat down in prayer about it, and I thought, God, what are you doing here? And I was like, this is, I told him I had the same thought, and he said, I just like sometimes the still small voice, and sometimes the scream. I was like, and you were wrong too. It was just like, yeah, you said. I kind of had the same thought. It's like, yeah, because you were lazy too. It's like you were there, and you said if we did it this way, that'd be an easy interim step. And he said the same thing, and it's like you're both wrong. So the first time he floated the idea, I said the same thought. And as soon as I sat down and actually prayed about it, it was not the still small voice. It was, you were wrong too. It was like, okay. And as I continued in prayer, it didn't change. And I was like, I'm going to talk to Todd about this. You know, and like I said, as soon as we got it in front of the group, it was like,
So
the one that got this property donated to us said, "Are you sure?" "I'm not at all." And his daughter was brought into this world. Said, "Not sure." And I was like, he already knew what I was going to say. He just didn't know if I was going to be the only one who was going to say it. I can't even prayer about this, but at this point in time, I don't see it. But I didn't need to say it. Huh?
Were you the only one?
No. Like I said, the one that facilitated, that called a friend and got this 15 acres donated to us.
Yeah.
He was the first one to speak. Daughter was the second. He already knew what I was going to say because I didn't surprise him. I'd already taken him to lunch.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to. If he gives me lead time, asking me to pray for something, I ain't going to surprise him if I oppose it. I'll let sure he knows, because he'll get a chance to win me over in case I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But he already knew where I was, and then others came in and said, that's why he was like, I think he comes back from the sabbatical going, wow, I got people that love me enough to tell me when they think I'm a little bit off.
Well, how hard is it going to be? The move that you're saying, the vision that was in front of it.
It's not. If you're aligned with God, it's the right amount of hard.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it is it's that whole 800,000 to 1.3 million thing. It's like that's next. The church is built after that. Anything that's not the arena or the church is unless God's parting the sea and saying this is where you walk, we're diverting from getting ready to do the thing, because he gave us this as soon as we got serious. As soon as we moved out of the community center and onto 15 miles away onto he's got pasture in the next county over that fronts the same road. We moved the tent over to his place until less than a year later, this was donated to us. This is $2 million worth of property. This is commercial.
Yeah, I was saying
it's like
road front, and I know the building down there where the BCS Church is. I looked at they don't pay taxes, but I looked at what it would be. Road front property. Yeah,
you made $50,000 to $100,000 an acre.
Yeah.
And we got 15, and they gave us the frontage.
Yeah.
What they kept.
Yeah.
They gave us the pizza, like 2 pieces of pizza kissing up to each other. Well, they got thousands of acres back there.
Yeah.
But the road front, they gave us this, and they kept the tip of it. Okay, they kept the little neon cross and a little bit of land. They gave us the crazy expensive property.
Yeah.
And so
what
when we started doing things that were hard.
What's the arena? Is that how y'all pull in more?
That's how we get the target group. We're trying to, you aim for the working cowboy, but you pick up ranchers, farmers, people that are Western oriented, just good old blue collar people.
Yeah. And
Todd has got a blue collar preacher skill set. He kills it. He just,
I got on YouTube.
Nobody for 50 preaching from 50 to 100 people. Look, I've been in churches that had 500 people that had pastors that had half the time, and they were doing just fine because everyone was doing their job and they had good worker bees stuff. But for a blue collar church,
Okay, we're live on What's the Bible Say? Give me a second here.
An ag county, let alone that we are very much Texan and the whole
Just go to eBay Motors where the check is a guaranteed fit. Let's ride.
There's not many of them, but that outer ring, getting people like me that are just like,
Okay, folks, I am checking my YouTube to make sure everything is good.
well, I'm in the outer ring of Bullseye. There's a whole bunch of outer ring here. It's like, the math says the community is growing up.
Okay,
And
we are live here, and I'm seeing myself on my phone. I have to make sure that everybody's getting. We have new people that are watching tonight,
most conservative
and we're
public
giving a
university
shout out
by
to
most accounts.
folk in
Largest active
Washington State,
population outside of Notre
and we
Dame.
appreciate you being with us. And so, let me get back in here, and I want to have you in place while you're getting ready. I hope that one of the things that you might do is maybe you might be willing to call a friend and say, these guys that are doing what does the Bible say? and they're basically doing all kinds of research for us. What does that mean for us? I'm opening my YouTube channel, and what I'm doing is I'm going to let you basically have a look at the work that we do. These are videos that are not live, just so you can become familiar with the way things are done. On August the 19th, we put up a video, 7 minute 31 second video. Oklahoma Christian University promotes community church, and the information in that community church in West Monroe, Louisiana. And so you need to be aware that that's what folk at Oklahoma Christian are doing at the very high up level. That's Christian Chronicle, who is associated with a part of Oklahoma Christian University. Then on August the 18th, or previously on August 18th, Caleb had a program called PTP and GBN, that's Polishing the Pulpit, and Gospel Broadcast Network, Giving Sin a Pass for Money. And that is a 28-minute video. And so on the 15th, BJ Clark, Memphis School of Preaching, and we're basically asking the question, he's heartbroken over Jeff Walling at Winterfest. And that's like, we want you to see that in 2015, in this video, it's 1 minute and 7 seconds. In this video, you actually are hearing somebody, BJ Clark, director of the Memphis School of Preaching, just really bemoaning about Jeff Walling and people taking their kids to Jeff Walling's event in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is called Winterfest. Then we drop down and we have one of our local men who is actually on the broadcast, who's doing a broadcast, teaching a lesson on August the 13th, I believe it's going to be. And so those are videos that we put up. These are videos that are live. And so we basically want you to be able to see these. Let me see how this goes. I'm not generally doing things in this kind of mode. I want to tell you that Caleb was on the school today. What does the Bible say school is going again? Book of Micah. And it's extremely good classes. I'm listening to the classes while I'm trying to work. Prophets were harsh and in the know. Greed of preachers. And so this is a very interesting book, Micah, and he's bringing it into where the Kings and the Chronicles are, where Micah is located, association with the Kings and the Chronicles. Now, this is a broadcast on August the 20th that is, in fact, talking about the problems in our brotherhood, who is fellowshipping who is promoting, who is enabling. Because, you know, folks, there are a lot of people, as we see throughout the sectarian world, there are people that promote individuals that are really against their own religion. And they do it, why? Why do they do it? They do it for money. Just like in this one, Micah the prophet, he talks about preachers and prophets being in a greedy position, false prophets and false individuals that are not really in it for the truth. Now, this one is 1 hour and 9 minutes, and it really involves a lot of information in regard to what is going on in our brotherhood. As a result of that broadcast, an individual named Drew Milligan gets on, and he starts talking about the things that we're doing. We're going to have a look at that tonight. Caleb has another broadcast on Calvinists, and at the end of that broadcast, when he's telling you about Calvinists, and he's bringing up Calvinists that actually teach that you need to be baptized for the remission of your sins, that would be a gentleman named Beasley Murray, and or maybe it's Murray Beasley. I forget this guy. It's really difficult keeping up with some of these individuals that he's already dead, but we have so many individuals that we have to keep up with. It is really hard. He's a Brit, and let's see how that comes up. George Beasley Murray. And so if you look him up, you'll see that he was an evangelical Christian, a prominent Baptist scholar, principal of Spurgeon's College in London, later professor of New Testament interpretation at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. And that puts him really in a position for you to be interested in him. And so, it really gives you an opportunity to cover a lot of people. And so Caleb's done 3 shows on that. And then you have on August the 16th, I do a program, Churches of Christ Big Tent Event Explodes. USA Today tells the story of Chris Sedman. Chris Sedman is an individual who was in Farmers Branch, and he introduced women preachers into instrumental music into the Farmers Branch church. Now it's called the Branch Church. And he's also involved with all kinds of individuals that are also introducing women preacher. I don't think he has a problem at all, because he's on the Pepperdine Lectures with folk that are using women preachers and women preachers themselves. And so, if you think that you don't need this information, you're already in trouble if you think you don't need this. Here again, on August the 16th, you have the book of Micah. This is Caleb's first class back. There's about 350 views already. People are watching this 2-hour broadcast. It's extremely useful for you learning how to go through Kings and Chronicles, how to keep up with the prophets that are actually talking to the particular kings. And it helps you also to see the God of the Old Testament is not a God of hate. He's not a God of wrath. He is a God of love and mercy and kindness. He is very interested in your willingness or trying to help you to repent. He's very interested in how you deal with your neighbor, how you deal with society itself. All of these precepts, all of this teaching is packed into the Kings and Chronicles, and also into the prophets. The prophets are bewailing these individuals and telling them that they need to correct their behavior so that the nations around them can see that Israel and Judah are in fact a very special group of individuals, and that God never intended for them to drift off into the idolatry of the people around them. And so that's exactly what we need to hear today. People in the Lord's church, they are so much like the world. They're so much like sectarian folk around them. And I'm very pleased tonight to be in a position where someone is in fact talking about me, and they are basically telling people that, let me go, just stop just a minute. That's number 42. We'll never be able to go through 42 slides tonight, but I just want to pick up something that prompted the discussion tonight. And so I'm in the middle of a research, and maybe, you might say tonight is a bit scattered. And the reason why it would be that way is, once you start research, once you start realizing that people are really paying attention, and this is a Facebook post that was made today by a gentleman named Drew Milligan. Drew has blocked me. I would like to be able to show you a lot of information that Drew has said, but the caption here says, there is an extremely, all caps, small but vocal group of individuals, and he then begins to describe the work that we're doing. Now, folks, it really amazes me when individuals will put something up there like that, and then as you begin to talk with them, they block you. And here's the things that were going on. Drew Milligan says to Mike Huff, this is what is being done. I got a message this morning griping at me for being at PTP because of false teachers such as B.J. Clark. Okay, immediately you know that the thing that he said about the small group, there is an extremely small but vocal group of individuals. Okay, if it's so small, then why is it bothering you? And why is it that your friends, whoever it is that talk with him, I really do appreciate you helping us out. Whoever this small, extremely vocal group of individuals is, they are getting Drew Milligan's attention. What did they do? They talked to him the first thing in the morning, 16 hours ago, griping at him for being at PTP because of false teachers such as B.J. Clark. I believe today's the last day of polishing the pulpit. And so Drew is still there, was still there, and someone in his friend group, someone in his association actually said, you know what, there's stuff going on that you actually need to take note of, and you don't need to just go to these places with your head in the sand, not paying attention. So basically then we drop down, and Mike Huff gets into the discussion. Mike Huff says to Ken Thomas, they call out preachers that share a stage with false teachers. that use instrumental music and allow women preachers, there's no second, third, or sixth degree of separation. Okay, now what are we talking about here? Drew Milligan actually says, and in his caption here it says 6 degrees of fellowship. What they try to say is that my grandmother was with someone over at a congregation, and that congregation had speakers that had been with someone that was teaching false doctrine over at another congregation, and that congregation that had the false teachers was actually involved with another congregation that has a false teacher. And they're basically saying this is so convoluted and confusing that you'd never be able to keep up with it. Now, y'all, this is a nice face. You know, I'm looking at these individuals. That's not my enemy. I'm just saying that's the face of an individual who probably is wanting to do what's right, and he is, feeling the pressure. And someone has told him this business right here. They've told him nothing is wrong, everybody's okay. And if you go to Polishing the Pulpit, it's a great place to be. You'll not be around anybody that's involved with false teachers. You won't be anybody that is a false teacher. Polishing the Pulpit is filled with false teachers' own fellowship. They actually tell you that all the people that are trying to get you not to hobnob, participate, enable, sympathize with false teachers are really not able to produce false teachers. They're talking about somebody that was with somebody that was with somebody that's with somebody that shook Rubel Shelley's dog's hand. I've heard it said just like that. Rubel Shelley's dog don't have a hand. It's a paw. But you see what we're saying? They shook his dog's paw, and now they're guilty of being in fellowship with Rubel Shelley. It's basically silliness. But is that what is actually taking place? No. Here's what's taking place. Mike Huff rightly instructs Ken Thomas. They call out preachers that share a stage with false teachers that use musical instruments and allow women preachers. There is no second or third. There's no second, third, or sixth. We're actually saying hand to hand. Individuals that are face to face, they are involved with false teachers, and they're going along with women preachers and instrumental music. And it's not 2, 3 degrees away. In other words, 2 or 3 people down the line. Well, Drew Milligan says, Mike Huff, when has BJ ever shared a stage with someone from Pepperdine? Okay, now that is the jump off point tonight. When has BJ Clark ever shared a stage with someone from Pepperdine? Now what I did is I actually put a Facebook message together, and I demonstrated that very thing. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go back now to number 42 here. Let me do some back behind the scenes work. Okay, I'm going to go down now to my slide that I was on just a minute ago, number 42. And let's have a look at some current things and see if you can keep up with this. Here we go. Now, I don't really want to key in on BJ Clark right now. What I want to do is I want to be able to show you things that are so simple. And when I say so simple, what we mean tonight is we're trying to show members of the Church of Christ. And what we're doing too is we're basically trying to show people all over the sectarian world, whether you're Baptist, whether you're Methodist, whether you're Episcopalian, whether you're Pentecostal, Seventh-day Adventist, whatever you are, we need you to realize that this is the same thing that's going on in your fellowship. We began several weeks ago with the Southern Baptist Convention, and we were showing how that individuals in the Southern Baptist Convention are doing the exact same thing. So maybe as you're watching this, you don't know all the players, but you know the game. And we're trying to get you to realize this is what you have to do in order to stop the sympathizing, stop the enabling that is going on in the sectarian world. What we're really saying to you is, one of the things that I don't think people realize is we have to have authority. We have to have biblical authority, biblical permission. That's another way of saying authority or permission. Why are you doing what you're doing? We have to have biblical permission in order to do the things that we do in any particular religious arena, any religious realm. Let me open my Bible program. It's acting like it doesn't want to open right quick. Let me see here just a minute. There it is. All right. Now, let's think together. In Matthew chapter 21, let's see about verse 18. And let's move down here right quick and let's see if we can find where this is the very thing that is happening in Jesus' life. Now, this is Matthew 21, verse 23. Let me close some of these other... Now, you might be saying, it's kind of difficult to keep up tonight. This is exactly what it would be like if we were talking. Let's just say, for instance, I came on the scene and I was having a chance to be involved in a Bible study with individuals. 21, what did I say? 25. Let's say I walked up on the scene and people were having a discussion about whether it's right or wrong to do a certain thing. And I'm saying we're thinking off the cuff, on our feet, and some individuals are thinking one thing, others are thinking another, and I step in. This would be exactly how we would work it. You have to be ready all the time to handle the situations that you find yourself in. Let's say, for instance, that you, as a Baptist, were actually arguing with another Baptist or discussing with another Baptist who's in the Southern Baptist Convention. And what y'all were doing is you were having a discussion about women preachers. And the person that you're discussing with actually has a sister who has gone to seminary. And when she gets out of seminary, she can't find a place that she can actually use the skill set that she's been told that she is authorized, has permission to use. In other words, she cannot be a pastor. And you're really having problems with that, and your friend is saying, no, look, you have to have permission for the things that you're doing. And you might say, what's this business about permission? Here it is. In Matthew chapter 21, verse 23, and when he was come into the temple, the chief priests and the elders came unto him as he was teaching, and said, by what authority dost thou these things? And who gave thee this authority? Now, what we're doing here, I'm going to let you have a chance. We're going to answer the question of what's this business about authority? Now, just give me a second here. We'll drop down and we'll look at the word. Exousia. What does it mean? The word for authority. It means privilege, capacity, competence, freedom, mastery, magistrate. It actually says is a token of control, who delegated, influence, authority, jurisdiction, liberty, power, right. You see how this is? They're basically saying several things to Jesus when they're saying that. Who gave you permission? Who said that you could actually be up in the temple and doing the things and saying the things? And Jesus answered and said unto them, look what is happening here. Jesus is putting this right back on them. This is basically you and your pastor, or this is you and someone else who is trying to tell you that you can't do a thing or you should do a thing. You need to ask this question. Who gave you the authority? How is it that you get the permission to tell me this or that? And look how Jesus answered. He said unto them, I will also ask you one thing, which if you tell me, I and likewise will tell you by what authority I do these things. Now, watch this. So Jesus gives them an example. The baptism of John, whence was it? From heaven or of men? And they reasoned with themselves, saying, if we shall say from heaven, he shall say unto us, why did you not then believe him? But if we say of men, we fear the people, for all hold John as a prophet. Now, this is exactly what happens many times. Individuals find themselves in a position like Drew Milligan, as we mentioned a moment ago. You find yourself in a position where, I'm going to go back up again off of 42, and I'm going to come back to it really quickly this time. It wasn't in any way that difficult, and I should have used this in the first place. You come upon a person like Drew Milligan, and he's basically saying, these extremely but vocal small group of people, they really don't have the right to say the things they're saying. Now, when you really get down to the right, he's saying somebody actually was What was the word that he used? They were griping at me. Now, I don't really know that that's what was taking place. Were they really griping at you? I don't know about that. Let's see. I just realized something in the going over this that I had not seen. They actually name us eventually. Let's see. I would encourage everyone here associated with the Robertsons to stop swallowing everything they tell you without even question their motives or their information. I agree. If you are not going to be questioning why we're doing what we're doing, then you know what? You need to not take the things that we say. All right, here we go. Here's what's being done. This is what is being done. I got a message this morning griping at me for being at PTP because false teachers such as B.J. Clark. And then we went down here and he ends up saying, he wants to know, is there any time that B.J. Clark ever, here it is, shared the stage with someone from Pepperdine? Now, what's going on here? Pepperdine is as far out as you can get. Musical instruments, women preachers, community church. It's basically a sectarian group that used to be associated with the Church of Christ, but now they have just made it up in their mind that they're going to continue with just really anybody that they want to. You can see the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. You can see any number of sectarian groups, denominationalism, sectarian. Denominationalism is a nice way of saying sectarian or heresy, heretics. You see any number of individuals that would be considered heretics when you start looking at what the Bible says. And so he's basically saying, who in the world can prove that B.J. Clark is involved with someone like that? Now let's see if I can get back to the segment where he actually says that Drew Milligan says, I would encourage everyone here associated with the Robertsons to stop swallowing everything that they tell you without even questioning their motives or their information. I agree with that. And so Mike Huff says, wow, the name is finally spoken. That small group, but it's very vocal. He said the name is finally spoken, but don't let them try to explain it themselves. Just block them and delete their posts when they try to explain and defend themselves. If your beliefs and your thoughts are on solid ground, there would be no need to block. You could just destroy their false claims with your truth, could you not? And then Drew Milligan says this is the problem. They're divisive with their tactics. In addition, this doctrine is false. Common sense tells us it is false. It is clear you have bought into what they have said, hook, line, and sinker. And Drew Milligan says the reason I blocked them is that I have no desire to debate them. Okay, that's exactly what you saw in Matthew chapter 21. These individuals that Jesus was talking with had no desire to talk with Jesus. Look at this. If we say this, we fear the people. And Jesus answered unto them, we fear the people. And if we say that his baptism, John the Baptist's baptism, was from heaven, he'll say, why didn't you be baptized? Why did you not receive the baptism? If we say that it is of men, we fear the people, for they all hold John as a prophet. And basically Jesus says, this reasoning is just ridiculous, and I'm not going to answer your questions either. Drew Milligan's reasoning is ridiculous. He's basically saying that the way that he's going to handle us is he's going to block us. And Mike Huff says, well, why block them? Why not answer them with your truth? And he says, I have no desire to debate with them. Well, I get the idea that a lot of people don't like being involved in debate. But here's the thing. If you don't have a position, then why is it that you're opposing us if you don't really have a means of answering us and you're just saying our motives and our information is false? I don't really see why anybody would listen to you either. And see, this is a very common event that takes place when we go out and talk to denominational people. We go out and we try to talk to individuals, and you know what they end up doing? Someone invites us to an assembly. We go to the assembly, a Baptist assembly, a Pentecostal assembly, an Episcopalian assembly. It's in the newspaper. Everybody come. We come. and they end up kicking us out. The Baptists end up calling the police. The Pentecostals call the police. Why is that? And get restraining orders. Why? Because they cannot answer. They're saying the same thing that the individuals in Matthew 21 are saying. They're saying, if we let them talk in our assembly, then the people will realize that we really don't have permission to do what we're doing. And they will array our behavior, such as speaking in tongues. They will show that the Bible actually regulates how you're supposed to speak in tongues or not. And we don't have permission to do it the way that we're doing it. Now, y'all, this is extremely important and extremely simple. Look at 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 26. How is it then, brethren, when you come together, everyone hath a psalm, everyone a doctrine, a tongue, and hath a revelation, interpretation. Let all things be done unto edifying. If any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by two, or at the most by three, and that by course, and let one interpret. If there be no interpreter, then let him keep silence in the church, and let him speak to himself and to God. Now, you see how that is? When you go into a Pentecostal service and they're all doing their thing, they're all doing it at the same time. And the regulation is that you only have one person speaking at a time, and then you have an interpreter interpreting that. They never have an interpreter. So you see how this is working? Our own brethren say to us that we should not participate in a situation where we go in by invitation and then try to get them to have a discussion with us. Why? Simply because they don't do it and they're not interested in changing the atmosphere, the environment, your community, your neighborhood, your city, your county. You know, in this area, the behavior is so drastically different than when I first came here. I would do a television broadcast like this, had the phone lines open, and Pentecostals, one in the Godhead Pentecostals would try to call in, and they would try to promote their doctrine, or Baptists would call in and beg me to answer the Pentecostals, the holiness individuals, the apostolic individuals, because they were constantly bothering their relatives with this one in the Godhead stuff, Jesus only. And so we began to go to their assemblies, we began to challenge them, and we do broadcasts on them showing this kind of thing, and also demonstrating that what they're saying about there's only Jesus and there is no Father, it's just Jesus. We would do broadcasts and answer them, and the next thing you know, we have somebody come from California to debate that faith. Why did they come from California? Because nobody around here was able to debate it. They were afraid. Why? Just exactly like it is tonight. We put up our information. They couldn't answer it, and they tried to make it look like it was a lawful unlawful thing that we were doing. They would try to get the police involved. As a matter of fact, the apostolic folk in this area during COVID, they talked to the sheriff that was then the sheriff, and they talked about getting a blanket restraining order, all of them together, getting a restraining order against me and Caleb. And the sheriff, I have him on tape. He said, "You wouldn't want that, would you?" And I said, "Absolutely. I would love for them all together to get restraining orders." And what I would do with that on television is show, look at this. These folk who can't heal, who shut down their assemblies during COVID, no power, they are now blanketly having the police or the county involved in keeping us from having any opportunity to talk with them about what they're doing and to demonstrate how inept and unbelievably unpowerful. There's no power in that. And you might say, well, what were y'all doing? Going up on their parking lot while they were worshiping on the parking lot, or standing around on the parking lot waiting for people to come in, not letting them in their building, and asking them questions about what are you doing. And so, you see what I'm saying? They're trying to make it an event associated with us breaking the law. It's not breaking the law. I mean, if somebody tells us to leave, then we have to leave. But still, if there's no restraining order, if there's not something in place and they're just assembling in the public and somebody invites us, same thing here. Our brethren say that it really is a violation of people's ethics and people's right to do what they want to do for us to come in and examine them. Is that really how it is? All right, let's get back to this. So here's the question. Is it the case that what we're doing is in fact not the truth? The information that we're showing is not valid? what I have tonight is something that I hope that you will take and you'll basically show it to someone else. This is so simple. I'm going to start with an individual named Steve Clore. Steve Clore is on the 2019 Pepperdine Lectures. What's Pepperdine? Pepperdine is a school in Malibu, California. They're extremely open to the sectarian world. They are willing to let women be preachers. They're willing to have musical instruments in their worship. I could actually bring up one during this particular lectureship where they have brought in instrumental music and they're no longer worshiping in the fashion that has been authorized in the New Testament. What does that mean? Authorized means permission. You would have to actually find how God wanted you to worship Him. And in the New Testament, you cannot find individuals who are authorized, given permission in any kind of way that God wants you to use instrumental music. Steve Clore, he's on Pepperdine. Now, how do I connect these dots so that Drew Milligan, I am fairly certain Drew Milligan will watch this because, we used his name. I appreciate him for bringing us up on his Facebook. I appreciate Mike Huff for engaging him, sending me a private message telling me that this was going on so that I could actually be involved in it myself. I was on his Facebook for a bit on Drew Milligan, and then he blocked me, and I'll try to show you later what it is that I put up. But what we're doing tonight is we're showing you the degree. Steve Clore. How do I present to our brotherhood at large that Steve Clore is actually in a position to make everybody that he is involved with actually guilty, as he is, of being on Pepperdine Lectures where musical instruments are okay, women preachers are okay. How do I actually convince them? Well, how about this? This is a lectureship. This is an event that takes place at a college called Crowley's Ridge, and it's in Arkansas, Paragould, Arkansas. And on Sunday, April the 2nd, 2022, Steve Clore was on the program. Now, you might say, okay, that doesn't do it for me. Okay. I want to show you how this actually works. When we start talking about the way that you connect people so that you don't fall into something that's called the 6th degree of fellowship, what we're saying is a one-on-one. You're with someone who is in fact involved with the sympathizing and enabling, if not outright promoting, women preachers, community church, and instrumental music. Well, how do you do that? Let me continue until I actually find the okay, here we are. What does it say? Crowley's Ridge College. And they're advertising, let me get my correct PowerPoint back up. Crowley's Ridge College. That's exactly where we are. You see this? Steve Clore on Crowley's Ridge right here. Steve Clore, April 2nd, 2022. Then we go to the lectureship itself, and let's notice what you're able to see. Okay, we're dropping down to the 2023, and I actually was mistaken. It's 2023 where Steve Clore is. I just didn't have that up. 2023, Steve Clore is on this broadcast. Wow. So that fly actually flew right into my nose, and so you're going to have to excuse me. I'm not going to let this fly take over tonight. So I might not say I'm not going to. Okay, are you still with me? Steve Clore. Here is the actual lectureship. Now, let's drop down here and let's look. Dave Miller. Someone might say, I don't know these people. Let me just give you a visual right quick. Here's Steve Clore. Is that good enough for you to be able to see Steve Clore? You know, I can't help that the way their website works, but they're letting you see Steve Clore's face, and then, you know, it's like, I don't know this guy. Well, how about, here's some help. His name is Steve Clore. And this is Kevin Youngblood. I don't know him myself. This is Ralph Gilmore. So Ralph Gilmore is the former head of the Bible department over at Freed-Hardeman, and Ralph Gilmore is actually a keynote speaker on the same program as Steve Clore. Now, what about Steve Clore? Steve Clore is actually on the Pepperdine Lectures. What does that mean? If he is on the Pepperdine Lectures, and community church people are on the program, denominational people are on the program, and Steve Clore is on the program, what does that tell you? Is Steve sympathizing? Is he enabling? Is he going along with? Is he for it? And so that's for Steve to actually answer. And people that we're talking about, Ralph Gilmore, who is a former head of the Bible department at Freed-Hardeman University, you ought to be able to ask Ralph Gilmore, are you actually an enabler of Pepperdine? Are you fine with women preachers and instrumental music, the community church, denominational fellowship? Are you fine with that? And if he says no, then the question would be, well, Ralph, why are you like one-on-one with Steve Clore? And, you know, I can put Ralph Gilmore constantly with people from Pepperdine. So here's the question. Here's another question. Would Ralph Gilmore invite a Pepperdine speaker like Steve Clore, let's get over here to Steve. Would you invite Steve Clore to be at the Freed-Hardeman Lectures? And basically, how about talk about fellowship? Well, I know that Milton Sewell, who is one of the former presidents of Freed-Hardeman, is saying no. He would not have Pepperdine speakers. I have a audio video of Earl Edwards, who is former head of the Bible department of Freed-Hardeman, saying that if anybody had been one time on the Pepperdine Lectures, then he would have very grave doubts about them and would not want them on the Freed-Hardeman Lectures. But in 2023, Freed-Hardeman had 4 former speakers at Pepperdine on their lectureship. So you see, things are changing, Drew. And I'm saying you can get on Freed-Hardeman's on their website, or you can watch some of the shows that we've been doing. Maybe I'll show the show as we're going off tonight and give you an opportunity to see that. Okay? Here's Dave Miller. Dave Miller is an individual who works at Apologetics Press. You know what apologetics means? It means that you're a defender. You're a person who answers error. And that's, you know, you're in an organization that is their function. That is their focus. Why is Dave Miller on a lectureship with Steve Clore? What is Dave Miller okay with promoting, enabling, sympathizing with Pepperdine? Well, you know, I can show you Dave Miller on Faulkner Lectures, and he's on Faulkner Lectures with at least 3, maybe 4, Walt Lever, Jerry Rushford, and F. LaGarde Smith. Those are all men who are very much involved with Pepperdine. They're regulars. Jerry Rushford he's been the individual who was in control of the lectureship for 30 years. That means he's the one that invited people like Amy McLaughlin, who is a woman preacher. Her father, Don McLaughlin, who has introduced instrumental music into the North Atlanta Church of Christ and is for women preachers. His own daughter is a women preacher. Patrick Mead, who has introduced Lauren King into the 4th Avenue congregation over in the Nashville area 2 or 3, 5 years ago. And David Lipscomb is involved in training these women pastors. That's the kind. Chris Edmond on the same lectureship. Chris Edmond is the individual who introduced mechanical instrumental music into Farmers Branch Church, now called The Branch Church. No problem with USA Today covered this. No problem with that. Why would Dave Miller be on this broadcast, on this program? I'm not saying, we're not talking about 2 and 3 degrees back where Dave Miller was on with somebody, let's say this gentleman, who was on with another person at another lectureship who was at Pepperdine. That's 4 steps. We're talking about this is one-on-one. That's 1 step. And he himself was on with other Pepperdine speakers and the director of the Pepperdine Lectures for 30 years. So where does that put him? And that's the question that we're asking tonight. So as we go down through here, we have a very interactive website at Crowley's Ridge College. You have Dale Jenkins. Really? Dale Jenkins? Dale Jenkins is on Freed Hardeman Lectures. Dale Jenkins has been on Polishing the Pulpit. If he wasn't on Polishing the Pulpit this year, he is consistently used throughout the Brotherhood in congregations that would be appalled if he said, let's bring in Steve Clower, but I need to tell you, he was on the Pepperdine Lectures. They would be appalled that he would say something like that. I believe Dale Jenkins was someone can actually text me if I'm wrong. I believe Dale Jenkins was on Freed Hardeman Lectures with the Pepperdine speakers that they used this year. It's appalling that you find men like this who are enabling, who are sympathizing with Pepperdine and allowing individuals who are on their lectureship more than once to actually come in and be on lectureships with them. And then, here's the thing, then they would like to be involved with us. Now, it's really going to get highlighted right here. This is Kirk Brothers. Kirk Brothers is the president of Heritage University over in Alabama, and Kirk Brothers is also on the same program with Steve Clower. Now, someone might say, Steve Clower, I only have seen him one time on the Pepperdine Lectures. Well, how about Jim Martin? Jim Martin has been on Pepperdine. I don't even know how many years Jim Martin has been on Pepperdine. And Jim Martin is actually on this program as well. Jim Martin, a Pepperdine regular, is on a program with Kirk Brothers. What does that say about Kirk Brothers? Just let me ask you this. Would Kirk Brothers invite Jim Martin? Would Kirk Brothers invite Steve Clower to be at Heritage University? You guys that go to Heritage and you guys that are associated with Kirk Brothers and you have great confidence in Kirk Brothers, why would you not talk to him? And I'm saying, is this not validated? Well, you might say, well, Johnny, up to this point, you really haven't validated that he is on the program with them. Well, I have validated that Steve Clower is on Pepperdine, and you just saw Steve Clower basically on the same program with all these guys, Dave Miller, Dale Jenkins, Kirk Brothers. And so at that point, when do I actually end up being validated? Let's just see here just a minute. Now, it is amazing to me that I did not necessarily recognize Jim Martin in the past. I have looked over him because, a lot of times you see these names at Pepperdine. Can you see the little orange dot up above Jim Martin's head? That's the Pepperdine logo. This is Harbor 2021 Pepperdine Lectures. There's Jim Martin on the Pepperdine Lectures. Now, Jim Martin is right beside Kirk Brothers. Now, what does that tell you? I have just validated my statement. And notice, can I do it again? Here is Jim Martin, and who do you see Jim Martin next to? This is the actual page of the 71st Annual Bible Lectureship at Pepperdine. Well, there's Jim Martin right there. And look, right below him is Amy McLaughlin, woman preacher. So what does that tell you? I've validated myself twice. Here he is on the 2021 Pepperdine Lectures. Here he is on the 71st Annual Pepperdine Lectures. His picture is right above Amy McLaughlin. They happen to be in the M's. Amy McLaughlin. Now, her name is Sheesby, her married name, but they continue to put her in the M's. And the reason they do that is because they want to place her near her dad, Don McLaughlin. Introducing instrumental music into North Atlanta. Don McLaughlin also has on staff Steve Maxwell, who is the co-founder of Acapella, which is a vocal group that goes into sectarian. They go anywhere, really, all over they've been on every continent in the world, and they're performers. They're actually demonstrating, actually entertaining you is what they're doing. And so Steve Maxwell is his head of music ministry. Steve Maxwell is on the Winterfest program this year with Jeff Walling. He is a regular at Pepperdine. He is a regular at Oklahoma Christian where they have Pepperdine. And look here. Here is Bruce McClarty. Who is Bruce McClarty? Bruce McClarty is the former president of Harding, and he is now on staff at Freed-Hardeman, and he spoke on the Freed-Hardeman lectures this year. So look at the question that arises. Now, is this valid? How many degrees is this? These guys are right together. Bruce McClarty is in good standing at Freed-Hardeman. Well, should he be? I'm saying seriously, why not just invite Don McLaughlin? Why not invite Amy McLaughlin to Freed-Hardeman? If you've got Bruce McClarty there, and for that matter, why not invite Bruce, Don McClarty, Don McLaughlin, and Amy? Why not invite them over to Crowley's Ridge College lecture program? Well, that would not be permissible. I don't understand why, because Jim Martin is on so many Pepperdine lectures that is just unbelievable that I've actually missed him. I had no reason to think that Jim Martin would be such a prominent figure in the Pepperdine world. Now, what I'm showing you right here is I'm showing you Pepperdine lectures over and over and over. 1992 Pepperdine lectures, 2010 Pepperdine lectures, and I'm pointing at this individual right here. That's Jimmy Adcox. Jimmy Adcox is from Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is right outside of Paragould, Arkansas. And Jimmy Adcox is a regular 2010 Pepperdine lectures. Let's go over here and locate him on the 1992 Jimmy Adcox right here. Let me raise that up for you. We've taken the time to get this information together with you. Can you see that? 53rd Annual Pepperdine Lectures. That's 1992. So he's been going a long time. Jimmy Adcox, Jonesboro, Arkansas. 2010, he was on the Pepperdine program. He is a regular from way back. Now, let's basically bring this into our sphere. Look at this. CRC lectures. What is CRC? Crowley's Ridge keynote speaker. Who is it? It is Jimmy Adcox. Now, y'all, how is it that guys like Dave Miller, Dale Jenkins, Kirk Brothers can actually be on a program that consistently finds people that are Pepperdine regulars on the same program? Is that not a question, Drew, that really should be answered? I'm just saying, why is it the case that these individuals get to be on these programs with individuals that are on Polishing the Pulpit? Is Dale Jenkins a regular on Polishing the Pulpit? Is Kirk Brothers? He was on Polishing the Pulpit this year. Should not Kirk Brothers have been questioned about being on Crowley's Ridge program with Jim Martin and Steve Clore? Could Kirk Brothers talk to Alan Webster and Cody McCoy about having Steve Clore and Jimmy Adcox and Jim Martin over to the Crowley's Ridge? Over to the there's just way too many P's and whatever. Over to Polishing the Pulpit next year. They already have their program set up for 2024. They're claiming that they're going to have 2 Polishing the Pulpits this coming year. What if Kirk Brothers suggested that, I was on the Crowley Ridge lectureship over in Paragould, Arkansas, and Steve Clore really did a good job, and Jim Martin, this guy, and I've listened to Jim Martin. Jim Martin does an excellent job on the material that I have listened to him present. But what about the fact that he is an enabler, sympathizer, if not an outright user of instrumental music? And I can guarantee you that he's involved with instrumental music, that he does not have a problem with it playing during the worship assembly where he is. And you might say, well, how do you do that? He's at Pepperdine. Do you think that he leaves the Pepperdine property or the assembly when they start using instrumental music? Absolutely not. These individuals are all in for it. How about community church? All in for it. So, now, I would simply ask a person who is one of our detractors if he really has a reason to say that we're not giving out information that is correct. Here's 2023 Pepperdine lectures. You have Dudley Chauncey. Who's Dudley Chauncey? Dudley Chauncey is the professor over the youth at Oklahoma Christian. And here's Jeff Walling. Let's see. Jeff Walling is right here. Jeff Walling is over the youth at Pepperdine. And the two of them came together into Gatlinburg in February, and they basically were in charge of, Dudley Chauncey claims to be an organizer for Winterfest. And who was on Winterfest? Winterfest had two individuals that were, one of them was on the Freed Hardeman lectures. His name was David Skidmore. You mean to tell me that David Skidmore was with Dudley Chauncey, who is at Pepperdine, and he's with Jeff Walling, who's at Pepperdine? He's at Pepperdine too. David Skidmore is on the program. He's basically one of their Renaissance man, as Jeff Walling calls him, that operates off of one of the websites, one of the programs that Pepperdine is in charge of, David Skidmore. And then you have Phil Brookman was on Winterfest. These are all keynote speakers. Phil Brookman, well, where is Phil Brookman? Phil Brookman is an individual that is regularly involved with Phil Sanders over at Edmond Church of Christ in Oklahoma, or in Edmond, Oklahoma, right outside of Oklahoma City. Now, let me ask my producer to go over and get my power supply. It is really disturbing that I have to show you this information, and you might really not believe me that it is disturbing, but I'm telling you, it is disturbing that we're at this juncture and that I am in a position where I can present this information and it cannot be gainsaid. Someone might say, well, Johnny, I don't know that I've ever heard this information put in this fashion. Phil Brookman, an individual who is consistently being used on Pepperdine lectures and was with Jeff Walling, Dudley Chauncey, and David Skidmore at Winterfest, one of the most liberal events in the entire brotherhood. I'm basically saying it is irrefutable, and I have to tell it because I get no pleasure out of telling it. I have to tell it because people that I am in fellowship with directly are involved with this as well. And they're also answering back and saying to me, it isn't the case that this is going on. This is Phil Sanders. He is actually housed, he is a member at Edmond Church of Christ. What is this advertisement in 2021? Please join us tonight's year-end area-wide service at Edmond Church of Christ. Phil Brookman of the Memorial Road Church of Christ will be speaking. Phil Brookman is a regular on Pepperdine. Phil Brookman was on the Winterfest 2023 this year. And Phil Brookman is an individual that goes back and forth with Edmond Church of Christ, where Phil Sanders is actually on staff. He is in charge of In Search for the Lord's Way. Okay, that's Edmond having Memorial Road. Memorial Road is all in for Pepperdine, and people like Missy Robertson, Duck Dynasty. I believe she's Jace Robertson's wife at Duck Dynasty, and Oklahoma Christian call that the West Monroe Church of Christ, Whites Ferry Road Church of Christ. They don't call themselves the Church of Christ anymore. Then you have Edmond Church of Christ, December 28, 2022. That was 2021. This is 2022. Join us tonight for a year-end area-wide worship at Memorial Road Church of Christ, where you can hear Jeremy Beller, PhD, of the Chair of Bible at Oklahoma Christian University. Are you seeing this? Yo, this is basically the home of Phil Sanders. Can I ask you this? If this is permissible, and it's not a violation of the unfruitful works of darkness getting in to our fellowship, then can I just suggest this? Let's just see if Jeremy Beller can be on Polishing the Pulpit next year. He's on everything else with you guys. Why not have him on Polishing the Pulpit? And why not have Phil Brookman? I mean, Phil Brookman was in 2023. He was on Winterfest with a Freed Hardeman speaker. I'm saying David Skidmore was on Freed Hardeman 2023. David Skidmore was in February, which is basically the same month. He was on Winterfest, and he's with Phil Brookman. So why not have Phil Brookman on Polishing the Pulpit? Why not have Phil Brookman at Freed Hardeman? Why not have Jeremy Beller at Freed Hardeman? I'm just saying, you have Phil Sanders. You have Phil Sanders on Polishing the Pulpit. You have him on Freed Hardeman. Why not bring in people that he fellowships so he can be more comfortable? Why not bring in Phil Brookman, who is comfortable at Pepperdine, and bring in Jeremy Beller? And you might say, no, Johnny, this is really, you're actually getting way out. Here's Phil Brookman. He's a keynote speaker on Pepperdine, 79th annual 2022. That's the same time that Phil Sanders was going over to the Memorial Road Church of Christ, where he's a preacher. This is basically showing, here's Chris Edmond. Chris Edmond actually introduced instrumental music 13 years ago at Farmers Branch. And these individuals are all together. Okay, here's Jeremy Beller with Donnie Bates. Who's Donnie Bates? 2022, Affirming the Faith Lectures in Oklahoma City, North MacArthur Church of Christ. Donnie Bates is on the staff at Bear Valley, it's right here, instructor at Bear Valley Institute in Denver, Colorado. So you're telling me that Jeremy Beller, who is in full fellowship with Phil Brookman, a regular at Pepperdine, now being used at Winterfest, why not have Jeremy Beller at Winterfest? Why not have Jeremy Beller if you're going to be with Donnie Bates? Donnie Bates is an individual that's not foreign to Southeast School of Biblical Studies, which used to be East Tennessee, which is where Steve Higginbotham actually preaches at Carnes. These individuals are all regulars over there. Why not just have Jeremy Beller? Why not have Phil Brookman? Why not have Steve Clore? Why not have Jim Martin? You know, for all I know, Jim Martin has gone under the radar as far as my radar is concerned. I never really noticed that. Randy Roper, he's over here at Edmond as well, on staff. Randy Roper, he's a speaker at Pepperdine himself. I'm saying, listen, if anybody knows Drew Milligan, would you please tell him that we have demonstrated that there is no 6 degrees out here. There's no 5 degrees. There's no 4 degrees. There's no 3 degrees. It's 1 and 2, one-on-one. Individuals that are involved. Phil Sanders is not going to Pepperdine, but Phil Sanders is happy. He is fine. He is an enabler and sympathizer. He is an individual who is all up in these individuals who do not oppose women preachers, musical instruments, community church, whole bit. What are we supposed to say? Here's Phil Brookman, Edmond Church of Christ 2023. Come over and hear at Edmond where Phil Sanders is. Hear Phil Brookman. Hear Jeremy Beller. These are individuals. Phil Brookman, as we said, he's a regular on Pepperdine. Jeremy Beller is an individual who has no problem with Oklahoma Christian. He has no problem with ACU. And let me go out here. And I want to show you the extent of this on, let's see if I can actually find in the last few minutes, if I can find the link that gets us to Affirming the Faith, where really a lot of this takes place and where definitely individuals need to be aware of actually the existence of these individuals. Let's just do this. Affirming the Faith. Affirming the Faith is a great one to go to. Affirming the Faith lectures. And the reason I say it's a great one to go to, because look at this. They give you just unbelievable amount of schedules, and you can look back at their schedules. And this is one that I actually had up on my broadcast for tonight, and I didn't end up showing it to you. Let's try 2022. And let's see if we can, how many individuals we can actually see that were on Polishing the Pulpit. Is Jeff Jenkins, Dale Jenkins, or the Jenkins welcome at Polishing the Pulpit? Here you have Jeremy Beller. Who's Jeremy Beller? 1 degree. He's with these individuals. He is with Phil Brookman. He is with Phil Sanders. He is going back and forth to Memorial Road where Stafford North used to be an elder. Here's Harold Redd. He is an individual who is a Pepperdine speaker. Here is Jack Evans Jr. I don't think there's anybody hardly in the know that doesn't know that Jack Evans Jr. is teaching false doctrinal marriage, divorce, and remarriage. Southwestern Christian College in Terrell, Texas. Ken Jones, Lubbock Christian. He is now the president at Oklahoma Christian University. And, you know, we just keep going down here and you're going to end up seeing much more individuals. Harold Shank, regular on Pepperdine lectures. Tim Piles. Tim Piles was a regular on the Tulsa workshop before it ended. Here's Donnie Bates finding himself in this particular crowd. Harold Redd, also speaker on Pepperdine. You have Randy Roper, speaker on Pepperdine. I'm saying, just let me ask you this. How many Pepperdine speakers is it all right to be with? And how many of them can you be on with before you are in fact considered just like them? You're in company with them. You're not opposing them. I doubt very seriously that Donnie Bates even knows that Randy Roper is a Pepperdine speaker. I would just shudder if he didn't know that Jack Evans Jr. was a false teacher on marriage, divorce, and remarriage. I would really shudder if he did not know about Jeremy Beller and the places that they actually occupy. You know, folks, in my mind, I cannot believe tonight that there's anybody that is watching our program that is not at this point basically willing to say, you know, I need to have a look at some of this information. And how do you do that? You do that right here on What Does the Bible Say? You tell a friend about what does the Bible say. It's just that simple. You tell them that they can get on and they can listen. For the last month, we have really been showing the things that are going on. We appreciate you for being with us tonight. I am willing to tell you tonight that tonight's broadcast was filled with information that I'm still in the process of processing so that you can actually see it in a seamless way. And I hope and pray that you weren't, that I lost you and that you weren't disenchanted by all the information or whatever. You can call me. My phone number is 276-806-2150. My email is joeblue81@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us. If you get on our YouTube, you'll actually see I think you probably are seeing it as we go off. And we appreciate you being with us. Always ask for, what does the Bible say? God bless you. Good night.